Dakle, idemo odmah dalje. Sljedeći predavač dolazi nam iz Slovenije, zove se Andarž Logar. Biografiju mu ne bih prepričavao, pošto i sami možete naći na biZbuZZ.rs, ali bih se pohvalio da sam u stanju da satima igram na ljuti se čoveče na igramo.se, što vjerojatno nije stvar kojom treba da se hvalim. U svakom slučaju, to je jedan od njegovih spin-off projekata, on će nam danas pričati na temu What works and what doesn't in mobile app world.
Hvala vam. Treba mi malo suporta ovdje za prezentaciju. Evo. Kompjuter je zalokan. Ali nema veze, moje ime je Andarž Logar, mislim, ja nisam native speaker na srpskom jeziku, tako da ćem nastaviti na engleskom. I na engleskom nisam native speaker, ali mi malo bolje ide nego srpski jezik. Anyhow, full screen. Anyhow, I'm supposed to talk about what works on mobile world and what doesn't. How many of you guys have a smartphone? Can you please raise up? Okay, so that's a high penetration in this particular room. Apparently Serbia has what, 17% of the penetration of smartphones? Is that about right? Higher, lower? Lower. Okay. Much lower. Okay, anyhow, so I guess the numbers I have are incorrect. Regardless of that, I guess I should start with just one, let's say a joke. I know that you guys have been partying pretty hard last night. I wasn't. So if anyone falls asleep, apparently that should be a compliment to me, meaning that you guys feel very, confident about my speech and you feel my positive energy that makes you sleep. So I guess you guys, if you want to fall asleep, please do. I guess I should be flattered. So let's start with the presentation. Anyhow, I guess I should be advertising our Toshel, which is a mobile app, also a web app, available on pretty much every single smartphone market out there. But let me start quickly about what is the company, who's the company behind Toshel, and what do we actually do. So the mother company is named 3FS. 3FS means 3 failed students. I'm a partner there, also CEO. That's a company based and located in Kranj in Slovenia. We used to have an office in Ljubljana as well. We have around 25 people on full-on staff, and these are our clients. So the clients that we service usually require us to do pretty nifty research and development stuff. We've done some pretty impressive software and also products for Ericsson, for Nokia, many others. Lately we've been extremely busy around servicing a new company on our board, which is called Mindshapes. So those guys are ex-Playfish, and in a couple of weeks we'll be announcing a new partnership with the biggest mobile game developer in the world. Apart from just servicing, which brings us 70% of our revenue, which is around 1 million euros, we also do, let's say, our hobby projects, our own intellectual property. I'm not sure if you've heard of Igrajmo se, apparently it's quite popular here in Serbia. We've also done a strip generator, which is a very niche social community based on user-generated comic strips. And lately, of course, and I'm also a business developer for Toshel. Toshel has been our flagship product. And with Toshel, I should be representing Johnny. Johnny is our character that has multiplied, so there are many Johnnies now. But Johnny is basically a personification of our brand Toshel, because we think that if you do something financially, Toshel is a financial app, then you have to be fun, you have to be humorous, and Johnny is our evangelist around that. So when we did, a year and a half ago, when we sat down with our team, we discussed what do we actually need on the mobile phones, what kind of app would we actually want, and we figured that no one is educated enough about where their money is actually going. I mean, we have fairly average salaries in our company, so we're not poor. But at the end of the month, I was shocked that I was spending more than 100 euros on coffee per single month, and this is something I wanted to actually remedy. And because we had a team on staff that had past experience, extremely long mileage around working on projects for Ericsson, for Nokia, and many other companies, we said to ourselves, look, we have the talent. Let's say we don't have a good idea, but we definitely have a talent, so let's do something that's cool, something that actually makes sense, and something that my mother would actually know what the hell am I actually working on. I don't know about you guys, but my mother still doesn't know what am I actually doing. So it's extremely important for me, for my company, that our mothers, our fathers, our grandfathers actually can tell a story to their neighbors what their sons and daughters are doing. So that's also one of the reasons why we did actually Toshal. Yeah, I guess with every product you should be starting with point of differentiation. Apart from the idea, apart from the team, the point of differentiation is something that makes you unique, hopefully. In our case, we knew we had good designers, we knew we had fantastic programmers, we knew we have all the knowledge possible around ecosystems in the mobile world, but we also knew that if we want to do something around the financial app, we have to do it a little bit differently. And in our case, and in our opinion, that was pretty much around your mama joke. So the personification of Toshal and the characters around Toshal should be humorous, should actually make you feel good when you actually spend heaps of money on coffee. Second of all, or third of all, in case you guys are wondering when you're doing a startup or a new product, you should also, of course, wonder about economy of scale. In our case, since we're doing a mobile app, we know there are trillions and trillions and trillions of mobile phones out there. We know that the growth is expected to be huge, so there's no way that we can fail. Of course, we failed miserably on many fronts, but let's say on this one we didn't. In a couple of weeks, we did the proof of concept. It was done on Android first, quickly later on Nokia Memo, which is a platform and a mobile phone that no one here probably uses and never heard of. Anyhow, it was a cool phone, but it was too geeky for the average community. We launched it, we had the first feedbacks, we had fantastic downloads, and then pretty much we question ourselves, what the fuck are we supposed to do now? I mean, we have the app out there, we have feedback, but you know, how to move forward? And we said, look, we have time. You know, last year it was a big recession in our industry, in Slovenia in particular. We had people on staff, we had some saved money, so we said to ourselves, look, let's scale this business, let's make it better. Let's go to platforms that we know how they work, and let's, at the end of the day, conquer the world with our niche application. And this is exactly where we thought that we should be going, and we are almost there. So today, Toshal has around 300,000 users. 10,000 of them are actually here in Serbia, which is quite interesting. Together we tracked around 230 million US dollars of real expenses. So if you're gonna go to Toshal and add a 1 million euro expense, we're not gonna track that as a real expense. Our major market is US, Germany second, India, Brazil number 3, number 4. So of course Serbia, Slovenia, and all those micro countries like us, like Slovenia, Serbia, Croatia, and so on, they don't actually make a lot of sense in our particular geography map. We are present on, let's say, every single platform out there. So Symbian, blah, blah, blah. So if you have a smartphone, please, you're invited to actually download the app. From the business point of view, we went to the Seed Camp New York. How many of you guys know what Seed Camp is? Okay, a few. Anyhow, it's a startup incubator run by a few gentlemen in London. We submitted our app to Seed Camp New York. We got accepted to the finals. We never got any kind of investments from them later on. But let's say my leitmotif today is talk about what we actually learned on the way to get there. So first of all, what is the value of idea? I mean, in case you're wondering that you need a really, really good idea to begin with, I would say that idea is worth 0. I mean, really, everyone has ideas. Barrier of entry to create new ideas is 0. I mean, it's low. And what's even more important is that the idea really doesn't matter. What really matters is the problem. So if you're selling your pitch or your product to an audience of educated consumers, you're not selling the product, you're selling the problem. And when they actually realize they have a problem, they will automatically establish a connection between a problem and a solution. And in this case, a solution is a product. But yeah, I mean, the execution is something that actually really matters. At the end of the day, it's how your app looks, how the app works, how your PR works, how your quality control works. This is what makes your product, this is what makes your story, this is what makes your brand. And in our opinion, the value of execution is 100%. Also, apart from let's say an execution is the whole story. Having a brand is a sub-story of that. And today, how many of you, I mean, really, if you have a smartphone, how many of apps do you have on it, and how many of those apps do they have a personal connection with you, meaning that they have a brand. I would say that out of 10 apps that you have on a phone, I would say maximum of 2 apps actually have an established brand. In my opinion, the best example of an established brand on a mobile phone are Angry Birds. Okay, it's a game, true, it's not an app, but they definitely have let's say a fairly average idea, but fantastic brand. And brand actually got them where they are today. From the application point of view, I would say that Facebook, of course, has a brand. LinkedIn has a brand, but from a small niche application point of view, I would say Evernote is probably the best brand on the mobile phones these days. If you create a brand, and this goes, I guess, for all the products, not just the digital ones, you automatically create some sort of an ecosystem that keeps on rolling on. And every PR, every marketing, every user acquisition that you don't do it from a problem-solving point of view. You always do it from a brand point of view. And, of course, part of the brand is design and usability. Toshal, our big emphasis is, of course, usability. Since it's a financial application for tracking your personal spending habits, it should be extremely easy to use. Otherwise, you don't do it. So you have a pencil, you have a paper, you can do it that way. You have Microsoft Excel, you can do it that way. But we actually think that by using Toshal, it's an easier thing to actually use. It's much faster and it actually gets the job done. And that's just about the usability. So when you do a mobile application, which is, in my opinion, a huge opportunity for you guys, much, much bigger than doing mobile services, web services, web blogs or whatever, you should be thinking of only a few things: design, usability, and brand. Idea is irrelevant. Of course, everything has to work at the end of the day, so you need to have proper people to actually execute it. From a code point of view, from a design point of view. From a code point of view, do unit testing. I hope you guys are familiar with what that is. Forget about continuous deployment philosophy on mobile phones because it doesn't work, unfortunately, due to the many factors, Q&A just one of them. And, of course, if you're thinking that Google Gears, clouds out there will actually get you going, think about that at least twice. Because if you're locked to a certain ecosystem, like Google Gears, like Amazon Cloud Services, you will get to a point where the connection between you guys and them is just too tight. So you should be thinking about doing something that can survive by its own. And in case of Toshal, Toshal is a cloud-based service, but before the data gets to the cloud, it gets to our own servers first. So in case Amazon falls down, Toshal actually takes over. So that's quite important from a user point of view. What we also learned is that if you don't have the money, if you don't have the people, if you don't have the brain power, if you don't have the support, and if you don't have, well, money, again, never go cross-platform. If we would do it, again, if we would start Toshal from ground up right now, we would do it only for the iPhone. We will forget about Android, forget about Blackberries, forget about Symbian, Windows Phone 7, and there are other platforms. I will explain later why. We would just focus on the iPhone, or one platform, let's say that. Of course, HTML5 seems to be the question to every single problem these days. I would say it's an overhyped word. I would say it does promise a lot, but right now it's just not there yet. We did an HTML5 application of Toshal, as always, or in many cases we failed miserably. But if you want to do something that behaves natively, that looks good, that it's extremely fast to use, and it's polished from a user point of view, HTML5 right now is just not the answer, unfortunately. So, since I was talking about ecosystems, I think I should just share some, like, say, experiences with some of them. So how many of you guys have a BlackBerry? 0, okay. Anyhow, BlackBerries are extremely popular with the banking people. So if you're doing a financial application, that also targets the banks at the end of the day. You, of course, need to do a BlackBerry version because the CEO of a bank has a BlackBerry. So that's probably one of the biggest reasons why we did the BlackBerry version. But from an ecosystem point of view, it just sucks. The phones are nicely built, they look nice, they actually work. The stuff that sits on them actually works. But 30 applications, they don't work due to the fact that the development tools are shit, support is pretty bad. And they actually force you to pay 1,000 euros a year to actually be a proper developer for BlackBerry, which is unacceptable in my opinion. Windows Phone 7 is probably a hype word these days due to the fact that Nokia acknowledged that OV or the ecosystem around OV is not good enough and they want to move towards Windows Phone 7. I personally I'm not that convinced about the potential success of that. It is true that Nokia has a lot of money, Microsoft has even more. They will not fail, I guess, but Windows Phone 7 is just far from being an optimized and bulletproof ecosystem these days. And what's even crazier that due to the lack of the localization support of the Windows Phone 7 market, I'm not sure about Serbia, but in Slovenia you can't actually be a developer for Windows Phone 7 because there is no way to actually register a developer account. So it has a long way to go. Nokia Qt. So I'm not talking about Nokia Symbian anymore or Nokia S40 or S60, whatever. I'm talking about Nokia Qt. Nokia Qt is probably the only platform inside of the Nokia system right now that actually makes some sense. So right now Nokia, if you do an app for a Nokia, you should probably do it in Qt. And by doing that, the application, let's say in theory, is capable of being live on the Symbian 3 phones, on some old Symbian 2 phones, on Nokia N9. And this is the under-the-table information. S40 is also going towards Qt. What's great about Nokia is that you have local people that you can actually phone. So Nokia has a presence in Adriatic region. So in case you have a problem, you just pick up the phone and actually call them, and they actually reply. So that's a good thing. Android. What we have learned about the Android? It's definitely #1 from the growth and the size point of view smartphone market. But due to the fragmentation, it's not that easy to actually develop a sustainable business model out of Android right now. There's no proper billing systems in Android. I'm sure the majority of you guys that have smartphones have Android, so I'm sure of that. But how many of you guys have actually paid for an application on the Android? And how easy is for you guys is to actually pay for an Android app? It's quite a problem. So the barrier of entry for the average user to actually spend some money on your app is too high. Which brings me to the ultimate ecosystem. I'm not an iPhone user. Okay, I have a Mac, but I'm not an iPhone user. But let's be honest. If you want to do something that actually sticks, that can potentially make money, iPhone is the ecosystem to go. Why? You have to be fairly rich to actually have iPhone. So you have to have some money. Because iPhone pretty much requires you to have a credit card, meaning that the barrier of entry to actually spend on additional services on the iPhone is actually quite low. But what is the best really about the iPhone are basically just the billing systems. Okay, you have one app, one-time purchase possibility, you have an in-app purchase possibility, you have a subscription model, which is fairly unique these days, and those stuff actually works, and it actually makes money. So when I was talking about our presence in those ecosystems, you can see the percentages of platforms in Tosha. I would predict that we will definitely grow on the Android part. We will definitely not grow on the iPhone part. Probably the iPhone share of Tosha will actually shrink quite substantially. Windows Phone 7 will definitely grow due to the marketing support of Nokia and Microsoft. Nokia Qt, I'm not sure if it will die, even though we're hearing different stories. But with S40, so the mobile phones for the next billion, as Nokia is saying, so India, the whole BRIC countries, there is a huge opportunity to actually grow there. And RIM, in my opinion, will just die. So RIM is completely irrelevant these days. Okay, from the revenue point of view, what we have learned about that? The main thing that we have learned is that if you create a small application that serves a particular problem, there is an opportunity to actually earn money. I would say that these days there's more opportunities to make money on the mobile phones that there are on the web market, and actually quite substantially more. From a billing point of view, I would say that we are way past those times when you would just pay $1 for a single app. All the apps pretty much these days are moving toward in-app purchases, and you should also move towards that, or even better, move towards subscription-based business models. Read about subscription-based models on the next web. There are a lot of articles around that. What is pretty much present is that the revenues of in-app and subscription-based models are at least 10 times bigger than they are with the one-time purchase opportunities. Okay, yesterday I was listening to a presentation about, from an operator guy. So can actually operators help you with building a sustainable business model for your mobile app? I would say no, they just suck. Let me give you just a quick example of what has happened around our application and the Vodafone store, Vodafone Android store that's present on pretty much every single Vodafone operator around the world. In a certain period of time, let's say 1 month, we got 40,000 downloads on the Google Market Android store. Out of that time, we got 17 downloads on the Vodafone Worldwide Market store. So that's the ratio you guys are dealing with. So forget about operators' mobile stores. They don't work. They really just don't work. So it would be a huge waste of energy for you guys to even think about it. But what can actually work is that if an operator gives you some money to actually put your app on their store. That's actually happening. So if your app is locally present and successful, it is possible that some operator will actually approach you guys and give you, let's say, 10,000 euros for you to actually put your app on their store. And of course, you should actually do that because, you know, it's free money. What's even more important is that where are the operators going? So what kind of support should you actually expect from the operators in the next couple of years? I would say 0. So forget about them. We are way past operators. Operators are bit pipes, even though they hate to admit it, but that's the truth. If you do PR, and you should definitely do PR, think about a couple of things. If you have an article on TechCrunch, this will not bring you any kind of users. Even though it's fancy to have an article on TechCrunch, if you had one, it's going to bring you a few hundred users, nothing more than that. If you have an article on the next web, it's going to bring you fantastic feedback, but not real audience. So if you do PR, target PR towards the late majority, if possible. So late majority on the crossing the chasm graph. In our case, that was BBC. Tosha was covered by BBC Worldwide News for 1 single day. So every single hour there was an article of 5 minutes for Tosha. And that, yes, that got us fantastic results. But having an article on TechCrunch, on the next web, on the app creating, GigaOM, and so on, brought us, yes, fantastic feedback, but no real usage. And you guys should actually should remember that. So if you're wasting energy on PR, and you should waste energy on PR, waste it on that PR that is actually targeting your grandmothers, and not people like you. People like you are early inventors, and there's just a limited number of similar people like you. Okay, there's another anecdote around PR that we have done that actually worked. Fair enough. We did an article, or we got an article in South America, which brought us first position in the app stores for a few weeks. Why is this important? It's important because South America is considered to be a developing continent, which means that if you do PR, don't do it in Serbia, don't do it in Croatia, don't do it in Slovenia, don't even do it in countries like, let's say, Spain. Do it in South America, do it in India, do it in China if possible. In case of pivoting, if you're thinking of a startup company, of course, pivot is something that you should definitely think about. In our case, we have not pivoted yet, but what's important is that you find a holy grail. When it comes to Tosha, the holy grail is automatization of your personal expense tracking opportunities. So if we would do it again, we would have a much smaller team than we did originally. Think about good to great philosophy. Get rid of the weak links in your team because they will fail, and it happened with us desperately badly. Find a market fit idea as soon as possible. By that, I mean, don't be original because it's impossible, but be good or be the best because that is actually possible. Run to minimal viable product. Have a one platform covered, have 3 people dedicated full on that particular platform, and then measure and react. That's really, really important. If you guys are following lean startup philosophy, read more about it because it's quite important. And find economy of scale as soon as possible. So scale cannot be achieved in ex-Yugoslavian Republic, but it can be achieved around the world. Okay, so where are we going now? Yes, we are becoming #1 personal expense tracking tool in the world. So we are right now on the 2nd place pretty much, but we should be #1 in a couple of months. If you don't consider what banks in the big countries are actually offering, because we are not directly competing with them. Have a sustainable goal, so something that actually makes money. So by sustainable, think about venture capital, but if possible, don't do it. So make money out of just being organically grown. and of course have an unsustainable goal as well. So I would like to buy a Ferrari. At the end of the day, it's all about passion, and it's all about, you know, people, and it's all about being personal with what you do. It's not about mathematics, it's not about economy, it's about, you know, being good at what you do. And something extremely cheesy at the end of the day, yeah, Antonio de Saint-Exupéry made it happen quite a few years ago. Thank you very much for that.